Hey, everybody. 2 dumbbells and a microphone. Episode, 15?
15.
15.
Yes, sir.
Wow. I'm DJ Moore.
And I'm Joey Dussel.
And today's topic, unsolicited advice.
Yeah. First ever edition of kind of a mini series inside the show. This is what we wish we could say to clients sometimes, or even not clients, people we just see in the gym and we wish, oh man, if I could have their attention for a minute, I would tell them, fill in the blank. And that's what we're going to be doing with these unsolicited advice. So hopefully a little bit shorter, a little, pretty targeted on a single topic at a time. And again, sharing some of those things that we wish we could say to people.
Yeah, wish we could say all the time, but I have been known to approach people in the gym, be like, hey, I have a suggestion, and if I might be so kind to suggest it. Sometimes if the response is not quite what we would want. So
right.
As a trainer, a lot of times I would hold back, and not say something, even though in their own best interest, it would have been helpful for me to walk up to them and say, excuse me, ma'am or sir, let me show you something to be way safer, way better for you. Can I show you? And it's not always easy to do this, but so now that we have a podcast, I'm going to say it, what I want to say to everybody out there, because it's my podcast.
Yeah.
Our podcast, excuse me. It's our podcast, and we get to say things that we think, I know. It'll be beneficial for you. You can use right away, and they will help improve your life and improve your lifting and overall health and fitness.
Yeah, that's the ticket, right? So we're the talent and the producers, directors, and in charge of everything. And because of that, we get to be here and kind of set the agenda. And what DJ is talking about is that we witness other people in the gym, or we see it amongst our clients, and we have a lot of information, in our hearts and souls and minds that we wish we could share, because it would be in the participants' best interest, right? Like, we already know that we know enough about health and fitness. We don't need to go out and be braggadocious or to show off in front of other people by pointing out their flaws or anything like that. This is genuinely useful advice that we wish we could share, but for an unfortunate reason, people are not always receptive to that info.
Right. But if it was your doctor saying it, you would have to be receptive, right?
Right.
What about if it was your what's the guy? The guy manages your money, right?
Financial advisor.
If your financial gave you some
tax
advice,
professional,
you'd probably be listening to it, right?
Right.
Be like, oh yeah, I'm right up on it. So I think that some of the things we have to say are just that important.
Yeah.
If you had an important person saying to your life, these things are important, and you listen, well, where I feel like we're at the same point. And because of the years of experience that we've had, I think we have that maturity to actually say some of these things. And they're not offensive by any means.
Right.
And I believe that there's probably a lot of coaches and trainers that want to say some things to everybody, but they just don't, because, I've been yelled at before for giving helpful advice.
Yeah.
Literally cursed at.
Wow.
I think I told you the story. It was years ago I got cursed at. But,
Tell us.
Well, it's not even that much worth mentioning, other than the fact that I tried to give some helpful advice to someone, because I really knew at that point the weight that they were lifting was obviously too heavy for them to lift cleanly. Okay. But I'm not talking about like 200 to 300 pounds. I'm talking like a 500 pound deadlift.
500 pounds is a lot of weight.
It's
substantial.
It's
a very low tolerance for error when the loads are that high.
Right.
Technique has to be basically perfect if you want to be able to repeat that and stay safe.
Right. And this young man, I mean, he was built, and you could tell he was strong, and I knew he had lifted before. I've seen him many, many times. So I had just offered him some advice when he was done with his last lift. I walked over and wanted to tell him what was going on, so he knew during his lift what was happening and something to be careful for.
Yeah.
Well, that didn't go over too well. He took it as like, nobody's lifting as much as me. Look how much I did. And he did say these things to me. He's like, no one's lifting as much as me. And how dare you come over here and tell me that my back is rounded out? And I'm like, all right, man. And he did it in front of everybody, even my own client. And even I walked up there very politely, and I didn't do it I didn't talk out loud enough for anybody to hear. It was just for him and I to hear.
Okay.
And so,
a little bit unjustified response then for him to be taking it so personally offensive. And, it's really something to say, my number is the highest, therefore I must be doing the best. When you can have a decade of professional experience and certifications and say, hey, I'm a trainer and I know what I'm talking about. And people who lift in the manner that he was lifting eventually get hurt. Give some advice to maybe correct his course, for him to be counter against you and to do it in such a way. That's pretty distasteful. And that is the thing that we run into often.
And that's an extreme though.
Yeah.
That's an extreme.
It's a good example of the extreme.
And honestly, that's super rare.
Right.
That doesn't always
the
happen,
degree.
So,
The degree of response. But it is common for people to say, hey, I'm doing my best. Don't tell me what to do. I didn't even ask for your advice. And that's something that I respect as a trainer. And my personal standard is that I will not intervene or say something unless it is a safety concern where there's really a chance for injury. Now, if somebody's doing something with like suboptimal technique, there's a better way that would get more results, I generally won't say something because, again, that can be not feedback that people want. They're not asking for it. For these episodes, though, we get to flip that around and say, hey, I'm going to tell you what you should care about. And we're going to get into this unsolicited advice, hopefully in a way that we can kind of give you a nice lesson and impart some of the importance of what we're talking about.
Right. I'll go for mine, the one that I catch the most.
Yeah, do it.
And being of my age, this has become more important for me as I age, and I focus on this every time before I train, and that's my warm-up.
Okay.
Now, I'm 50 years old. I've been training since I was 14. That gives me 36 years of lifting, pushing, pulling, and many other things along the way.
Awesome.
And as I've learned over the years, I can take better care of myself if I warm up correctly. Mm-hmm. If I work on my mobility, my stretching, my band work, my opening of my joints, these all lead to longevity so that I can continue to play and have fun and do work around my house and still participate in the gym floor, at a much higher level. It's not because I'm lifting more. It's because I am more focused on the recovery and the warming up more.
I see.
And if I was to speak to more men my age that I see out there, I would say, warm up more as you age. Mm-hmm. Take more of your time to warm up. It takes me about 15 minutes, which is not long, and that's part of my allotted time of the warm up. And so I always take that time to make sure I get my shoulders involved and my hips involved. And this is even if I'm going to focus on the lower half or upper half. I do both because most of my training takes me through both forms where I need my shoulders and my hips a lot.
Compound lifts.
Always constantly involved in what I do. So this in just focusing on one area, I'd say focusing on both when it comes to the warm-up. Now, I have a specific warm-up that I take all of my clients through prior to them doing anything.
Right, a very set routine.
Always set routine. It's the banded set that I have, and we can probably post a little video of that.
Yeah, we'll put in some footage.
Yeah, I've recently shot that. It's a good thing I've already done that. So we get to see the things I'm starting to send out to my clients, and this is what I make them do every time. Then this is an ounce of prevention too. Like this is that huge preventative marker for starting into something. You participate heavily in your mobility and flexibility
all the time. Yeah,
all the time.
Well, and as I was listening to what you were saying about warm up, I love all of that. I think it's extra important as people get older or if they're recovering their health and fitness. Like if you're starting a new routine and you're beginning from scratch, just going to the gym and solely warming up and then departing is a victory on that staircase towards full workout. And I think people they don't give enough value to that. I've done a lot of workouts, and I'm going to say workouts in quote marks. I've done a lot of sessions where it is just a warm-up. And because of how I feel during that warm-up, I decide to change or even eliminate the remainder of the workout. And so I think of it almost like a pre-flight checklist. And as you get older, you're going to have more stuff that you need to check, and it might take more time to warm up properly, but it's even more important.
I'd say so. I mean, I can prove it to myself. It's others that are going to have to prove it for themselves.
Right.
I don't know how many times I've walked into the gym just to see somebody taking a 5-pound weight and do that. You ever seen them that whoop?
Whoa, be careful.
Man, I'm so animated with my hands.
Yeah.
So they try to do that whirly bird with their arms, and they're trying just flinging their arm around with this weight on it. And I'm just always going, oh my God, about to tear something, pull something.
Yeah.
Just in the inertia of swinging these weights around. And I wonder where they get it from. Or the old, when they stand and they grab their heel, they pull their leg back, they try to stretch their quadricep, that old like.
A lot of people doing what they learned in PE.
Yeah, they grab it, pull it for
3, 4, or 5 decades ago when they were a child.
Yeah, and it's still going on today. And so that's those things that I just want to get clear is like those aren't warm-ups. Mm-hmm. And I get it. You're like, oh man, okay, now I have to focus on nutrition and working out, and now you got me doing a warm-up. Yes, please warm up.
Yeah.
Make your warm up
negotiable
part of this workout.
Right.
It's not separate from.
Yeah.
We don't leave it out. Even the cool down. I mean, that's the second part of what I wanted to say is the warm up and cool down can be highly important.
Yeah.
Whether you do it after you leave the gym or right after you get done working out, that's up to you and whether you have time to do it. But my clients and I, we focus in on these two areas very keenly.
Yeah.
Man, it seems to be working for them.
Right. I think that's really important recognition and definitely something that should be talked about more often. I've actually gone and taken the terms warm up and cool down, and I've just simply swapped them for preparation and post because it tells us what we're doing and also the objective. So if we're in that preparation phase, we're looking to increase your heart rate, your breathing rate, the temperature of your body, the amount of sweat that you have. So you're preparing for what's coming up. And I think you'll get so much more from your workout efforts, the actual working sets or the cardio session or the martial arts that you're doing if your warm-up is better. Because it allows you to operate at a higher threshold, right? If someone comes in and maybe they're a few minutes late to their session, we don't skip or reduce the warm-up because the warm-up is how we do well at what we're doing in the rest. And so it's not something that we can compress or skip over.
Well, any professional, not just professional athlete, semi-professional athlete, any athletes out there, any athletic sport where the coaches are saying, hey guys, we're going to warm up and have a great warm-up program, those guys will excel. Those people will excel at their sport because they warm up prior to the sport. There's no ifs, ands, or buts when the coaches say, warm up, boys and girls, let's go.
Right.
There is no. You
can't argue with it.
You just know. You know what you're supposed to do. And so if even your athletes are doing this, we could take something from them too and say, yes, maybe we should be doing it too. So my unsolicited advice, and before I keep going on and on and on, is please warm up prior to the event. Give your body a chance to get ready to go. Yeah. We are not, I'm not 20, and I would still, if I was 20, I would tell my younger self, you better warm up, dude.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the universality of it. If you're a desk worker, let's just do two extremes. If you've been at a desk, you're sedentary all day, you have to warm up to shed some of that, to prepare for your workout and to be able to do it safely and to get the results you deserve for that sweat and that effort you're putting in. On the other hand, if you've been like all day athlete and you've been pampered and massaged and had your perfect nutrition, let's just say hypothetically, right? You still need to warm up because that warm up is going to supercharge how heavily you can lift or how quickly you recover between sets, allowing you to get 4 rounds instead of 3. That's the kind of thing where, we're talking about this as health and fitness professionals. We come at it from a injury prevention and a safety standpoint, but it all holds true for performance enhancement too.
Yeah.
So, it's like if you're 20 and you're like, oh, I don't need to warm up because I feel pretty good already. Well, you're going to do better in your workout if you warm up. So you're not exempt from this just because you don't currently have pain or dysfunction or lack of range of motion, right? If you're a hard charger, you're going to be able to go even faster with a proper preparation. And the last thing I'll say about this is that the preparation phase also functions as your pre-flight checklist. So if you don't feel right when you're stretching and doing your barbell warm-ups, don't load the bar up heavier. Go home early. Stretch more to relieve yourself. And you can only develop that fidelity on how you feel with multiple, consistent, and repeated efforts. So if your warm-up is something different every time, how are you ever going to use that as a way to calibrate yourself?
Yeah.
And this is something I think fitness professionals, when we work out, we do this for ourselves. We're kind of like, how much caffeine have I had? How sore am I from yesterday? How busy is the gym? We're always doing all these kind of calculations.
Always.
And what it ends up with is a workout that's very precisely matched to our ability for the day.
Yeah.
And so I think I would hope for people to use their warm up as a little bit of reconnaissance over your body and say, hey, my knee's feeling a little weird. Maybe I should change my squat and go twice as slowly with half as much weight. That's exactly the modification I would make for my workout if my knee was feeling a little weird.
Right.
But I wouldn't know my knee feels weird until I'm doing that similar warm-up that I've done 100 or 1,000 times before, and I can now tell that my knee feels different than it usually does.
I couldn't have said any better. It's
Cool.
a pre-flight checklist.
Yeah, and if you fail the checklist, don't be afraid to do some lighter stuff,
Do
some
something
lesser.
else, yeah.
Do the executive workout where you hit the sauna, hot tub, and go home early. Because if your warm-up has helped you find that that's what you need, then it's the right choice for that day.
I think what we kind of say is there's more to all this working out, and it's understanding how to be aware of your body.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of what we explained over the last few episodes is understanding and being more aware. Mm-hmm. And that involves you being in motion or being in these positions that allow you to find it, right?
Yeah.
So being aware of how you feel is important. I know how my clients tell me they feel, and that for me as a trainer tells me like how I'm supposed to continue on for that day.
Right. You ask questions and then their responses dictate how you adjust the
workout. I don't mean how do you feel, like how you doing today when they come in the door. Well, when it's 6 a.m., what do you think? I'm not gonna say like, hey, how you doing?
There's no day to be had yet.
It's like I know it's early. You got crust in your eye. I know what's gonna go on. I'm going to say like, well, what I did for Fred this morning, because we had, legs yesterday. I say, well, how are your legs feeling today? Mm-hmm. Any specific spots? Are you feeling anything here? And he just tells me where he's feeling. I'm like, great. Okay. It sounds pretty normal. Cool. Let's move on. Let's do this.
Right.
That's me getting my pre-flight checklist on him.
Yeah. Verbally checking how he feels from previous session. Just like we would ask ourselves like, oh man, this foam roller feels a lot more sensational because I'm extra sore. I better adjust and make this, whatever was the plan today, a little lighter.
It's okay to be aware of your own body. You surely are aware when you're sore and beat up from not doing anything and you ache from sitting all day at a desk. You're aware of that, right? Mm-hmm. Most people are. They're like, oh, my neck, I'm aware of that.
The problem, the pain they have.
Well, it's time to be aware also when you go to do these physical exercises. Be prepared.
Yep.
Oh, man, we've said that before.
Yeah, we started with that for sure. Yeah. And I think that this is something that, we talk about it with a certain amount of intensity because the warm-up is kind of this kickoff for the entire session. Or if it's your own workout, it's going to kind of set the tone for your whole workout. And so it really matters to us as trainers when we meet somebody and we're in for that, that 8 a.m. workout or 6 a.m. workout. We want you to be showing up to the best you can so that the workout gets you that best result. And that's why we kind of have this intensity with it. Because it's like, wow, the next 50 minutes can be, muted because you're kind of half-assing your warm-up. And it's like, I never do that for myself personally. When I get into, especially with jiu-jitsu, I'm listening to basically the same playlist every time. I'm going through these movements. I'm getting into the flow of it. And it's really setting how the entire rest of the practice session is going to go. And I never am going through that kind of saying like, oh, this is stupid. This is a waste of my time. I wish I was doing something else instead. When does the proper workout start? Like, no, those kind of thoughts shouldn't hopefully be occupying anybody's mind when they're warming up, now that they know the value and importance that these moments spend for you.
I know. We try to tell people, there's so many things that are important.
Yeah.
And they are.
Yeah.
All somewhat to being important. And we know, and to be fair, both you and I we live this life so much. Most people
we're surrounded by weightlifting.
Nobody can
right
see
now.
here.
You can't see the rest of it. There's hundreds of pounds of gear and dedicated space in the house here just for heavy stuff.
Yeah, we're so involved in it for ourselves. And so we may sound like we're just obnoxious with everything. And we realize, I want to say, I know how hard you're going to have it, and it's going to take some time, and it's going to be work, and you're not going to be perfect. And I don't want you to be perfect. I just want you to start including a little bit of all of this.
Yeah.
And that's how we'll get through it. It's not all this at once.
That's
it's
true.
a lot. These are a lot of episodes to swallow, And if you try to do everything we just told you to do it all at once, you become overwhelmed.
Right.
And so I'll kind of revert back to how we started this whole thing is that take your time, try incorporating a little bit at a time, go search out the knowledge, whether it's from us and some of our website and our videos and stuff like that, or somebody else's. We don't mind as long as it's proper. If you want to bring it through us and we take a look at it and critique it for you, we would gladly do that for you just to help, because there's others that are probably thinking the same thing. Take your time. Don't get overwhelmed with everything we're saying. We're nerds at this, man. We eat, sleep, and drink this all day, every day.
That's a good call out.
And just take your time, relax.
Yeah. It's an important thing to keep in mind. Like DJ says, we're about this, and pretty much 24 hours a day. We're thinking on health and fitness. And so when we meet with someone for a session, we've probably spent, at least 20 to 30 minutes writing that workout, planning it out, thinking of how the movements are going to flow together for that specific individual. And so, when we're that obsessed with it, we don't expect everybody to meet us completely there. We just want to offer that kind of staircase, one step at a time. You can come as far up here as you want.
Yeah, I'm not. I would never call myself perfect. Even at this stuff here, I would say I'm extremely knowledgeable, but what's perfect? So
it's a pretty tough goal for anybody to have.
100%.
And I think the last thing on the warm-ups is that, like if you're in that 4th, 5th, or 6th workout of the week, I think people should give themselves permission to come in, warm up, and then leave, and not feel like you're missing out or not being tough enough or not doing some Navy SEAL workout that you think you should, because that's how we live, right? When we're working out frequently, when we've made ourselves too sore from 100 plus squats in a day, then we can come in the next day and start warming up. And when we're like, man, I just don't feel it today, and we leave, we don't beat ourselves up for that at all. I pat myself on the back and say, man, good for you for showing up, putting in 15 minutes, realizing it wasn't the right day for this, and then going home. And I think that if people are listening to this, maybe you've been sent this episode from a friend and you're kind of getting this unsolicited advice, take that piece with you as well and say, hey, it's okay to do less if that less is proper. And only through consistency can you determine that.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Do I go to the next one?
Yeah, let's hit it. All right. So, you did your warm up / preparation, and we kind of touched on the importance of it, right? We want to stay safe and improve our lifetime of being able to work out. Anti-injury, but also comfort in the moment, right? Because it feels better to move properly or to work out in a more prepared body rather than a shortened warm up. So I want you to take that message home with you, and then on my side of it, my piece of unsolicited advice that I offer most frequently to people is something that we kind of share. It's rather technical, and I tell people at the beginning when they start with me, this is the only anatomy term that I expect you to learn and retain. The anatomy term is retraction. We'll put in some footage of it. It's about the shoulders and making sure that we've pulled our shoulder blades together and really kept our posture properly. But I share this with people so often because I think it's kind of your number one solution for removing shoulder pain, improving posture, increasing the proper breathing mechanics. It's kind of a whole downstream list of things that all come back to the strength or lack of strength in a group of muscles on your upper back in between your shoulder blades. And so I hit people with this quite often, and I wish I could say it even more frequently, because I see people walking around the mall or they're doing their bicep curls and their shoulders are protracted, they're forward, and I just wish I could say something to them. But unfortunately, like we mentioned at the top of this episode, that kind of advice is not always welcomed.
No, it's not. And it's unfortunate. With retraction, this is what I see when I'll add into yours.
Go for it.
Is most people tend to push more. Mm-hmm. Most people's jobs and things we do are always in the front.
Texting, driving.
It doesn't
our
matter
arms are almost
what
totally
we do.
In front. Yeah.
If you're a plumber, an electrician,
right,
it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
But when we go to the gym, a lot of the males out there, I'll point them out, right? I was one that did this. We'd focus on this front, the anterior delt, the pec, the shoulders. But to the point of detriment because of the overdevelopment of the push, right?
Right.
The great show me muscles. And so as I grew older into this game and understood more, retraction, pulling more, pulling more, right, to even out this process. And I tell this to my clients, I said, you have to pull as much as you're pushing. And more so now, because we're going to be well past the point and developed in the front than we are in the rear.
Some catching up to do.
So there's a constant
catch up. You have to be purposefully imbalanced to the pulling side to make up for the.
So I flip my clients pushes and pulling, so I pull more with them than we do push. Because of that, and key areas, and that's usually the the back, and the shoulders. That's the key area of the pull that I'm talking about. And I think that that's really highly important.
So, and that's an important distinction. And just so everyone's following along, and we'll have some footage in here as well. Retraction is that specific repositioning of your shoulder blades so that you're then ready for a proper, safe pulling motion. And as paradoxically as it may seem, that's going to be the same shoulder position that you'll want to use for pushing away exercises. So push-ups and bench press, even though you're using your chest and shoulders in the front, you're still requiring this contraction in the back in order to keep these joints in the right place. And this is actually a movement skill that can take some time to develop.
100%.
We can't see these muscles. It's hard to feel if we've gone a few years or a few decades not paying attention to them. That really intensifies the challenge of waking them up and re-strengthening them. But it's really worth it because it's going to keep you safer during your movement, and it's going to actually make you a lot more comfortable because we're able to hold ourselves in the right place and we don't end up with some of these downstream problems of neck pain or shoulder pain.
Right. I fell into this, I would say, a little problem when I started chest pressing and stuff like that, and that was to do that sort of overarching of the chest cavity.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Right, this sort of like the extension of the chest, right? This overarch, and then you leave your hips down, but your back arched, and really pushing like that. And what that ended up doing, right? It ended up making me, obviously very strong through the anterior delt and chest and tricep, but it also started to change my thoracic position too, pushing out my upper ab up on this rib right here, and kind of pushing me out, leaving me much thicker through my rib cage up here because of not actually adequately using my rear delts and my traps in the right way to hold the weight. And so I didn't develop them as equally, like you were saying. It's they're equally involved when we're chest pressing.
Right.
You don't think so, but when you understand how they develop together,
it's a little tricky.
It is. They are together, and it does make things better. Well, I didn't know that.
Right.
So I had, over the years, and now I'm spending my later part of my years trying to collapse and pull these ribs back down in by doing ab work, changing my chest position, even changing my overhead pull position.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's a good call out. Keeping yourself a little more tucked while you're pulling.
Yeah, those pull-ups.
That's a common mistake when people lack mobility through the shoulder. They'll kind of overarch their back to make up for it, but it's just a compensation.
That was me.
Yeah. Well, and, even myself as well, as a fitness professional, nobody talked to me about the importance of upper back strength early enough in my workout career.
Yeah, not like this.
Right. So the unsolicited advice, kind of in a single soundbite moment, is if you're building your bench press or if you're working on your first full push-up, maybe, off your knees, on your toes now, that's going to come from upper back strength. And if we're a 21st century person, 100, right? So if we're a 21st century person, we already have a life imbalance where we're typing, texting, driving, we're doing stuff with our chest active here with our arms in front. We should factor that into our program and do maybe twice as much or 3 times as much pulling towards us than we do pushing away, just to get us back in balance. And once that balance is restored, you might be going 1-to-1, pushing and pulling. And when we say that pulling, the reason we really specify this to retraction is we're not just pulling by bending the elbows. The first step is actually going to come from our shoulders squeezing back here.
Even now,
put some footage in to show it. I know my body's doing it automatically.
You can't help it.
But it's important that we're drawing that distinguishing line of this is shoulder movement, not elbow, not arms,
not biceps.
Right? Those come with it. Those are always going to be ancillary. But we're obsessed with this first step, which is only going to be 2 or 3 inches of squeezing the shoulder blades back together. Get that shoulder retraction, set yourself up. And if you're hearing this episode, maybe it's a reminder, maybe it's a first-time lesson for you. We have some other videos to show this and you can learn it, but it's really something that I wish I could say more frequently and that it was more well-received when I offer that advice. Because it is really in your best interest, 20, 30 years from now, having been retracted versus unretracted, you're going to have significantly different options for how to, how to live your life and comfort that you have. And it's just a huge myriad of things, but I don't want to go too long because we've already been here for a half an hour. So we'll keep it tight. Get that retraction. Make sure that it's maybe one of the first things you do. It's built into your warm up. And if you're unable to retract, if you can't really figure that out yet, maybe we hold off on going heavier on bench presses or increasing our push-ups. We can save that stuff until the upper back is stronger.
Yeah, that's okay. You got a lifetime to work out. We can go ahead and focus in on one side more than the other for now.
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine.
And to be fair, we've already inadvertently focused on one side. By life, we've been in front with no focus or little focus behind. So to flip that might restore the balance that we need. And, I'll always want to say this too, especially for women. They kind of have that fear of bulkiness and they don't want to have extra muscle mass. The rhomboids, the muscles responsible for retraction, they're kind of hidden away. They're tucked on the back of the shoulder here, so they don't add to your silhouette. And it's a great way for building extra strength and capacity into your life without running afoul of that bulkiness that they fear coming to them.
They couldn't. We've had this episode, Joey.
Yeah, I know.
There's no way they're going to develop it to be bulky anyway.
Right.
But I get what you're saying.
Just in the interest of a complete message. If you're sitting at home saying, no, I don't want my shoulders to look buff and gross, whatever that may mean, the rhomboids are not going to contribute to that look, and you'll love the way that it makes you feel along the way. So you're going to see footage here of some of the favorite exercises for building up these muscles and for feeling that position. And we're going to include also some footage of DJ's warm-up, and you can see, kind of how he puts that together so that you have more understanding of why we're so intense about that as our number one piece of unsolicited advice.
Well, I'll throw in a third real quick. Because it's just if it's a warm up, there's a cool down.
Yeah, prep and post. We'll take them both.
It's the same. It'd be the same thing I see. I see people walk right out of the gym that's in whatever they've done, and they're not even stretching.
Yeah.
Nothing. And I know.
I'm glad you brought this back up, because if something that always stuck with me is if we were caring for livestock animals, like a racehorse, you cannot run them hard and work them out like that and then just stick them right back into their stall because they're sweaty. They'll get too cold. I mean, it's really detrimental for the horse. They have to be slow walked, slow down and cool walked and everything. We need to do that for ourselves. And I see it at my jiu-jitsu school where guys are like literally fighting each other. 5 minutes, the timer, they're like, whew, good one. Slap hands. I'm going to go home.
See you later.
I was like, dang, dude, maybe we wait just 5 minutes of cool down at least, or 10 if we could get it. Because the number one problem for most people is not overtraining. It's under recovery. Injuries come up and hit us because we don't cool down well enough. We're not ready and properly for that next session or whatever comes at us. And that's where we get injured. And so the warm-ups, preparations, and the cool downs, AKA the post period, that might be the most important thing you can do for your overall health and fitness effort.
Which means the last piece of unsolicited advice is this then.
Yeah.
If we're going to give you this advice about warming up, cooling down, retraction, this must mean that you must plan for the time needed to do this. Yeah. So maybe what's happening for your jiu-jitsu pals is like they haven't planned. They got to rush home. They got to get back to what they were doing. I mean, it's viable. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Family men and stuff.
Because they haven't built it in.
Yeah.
Hack it out, man. Let's build it in then.
Yeah, we'll do it.
I do. I know we're nerds and we're supposed to, but so do professional athletes.
Yeah.
Non-professional athletes.
That's it. Like we talked about at the top of this episode, when we share this kind of stuff, it's for that participant's best result.
Best.
So we're not up here to say, hey, we're the best because we warm up properly every day.
No.
I want you to understand I warm up properly because of the benefits it holds for me, and I want you to harness that same benefit, and that's why we share this unsolicited advice. And the podcast medium gives us that chance to say, instead of somebody kind of pushing back against us, this is our chance to speak uninterrupted and offer this advice.
Yeah. Yeah. If you want to get mad at us and type it and send us something, that's fine too.
Go for it. Yeah.
How dare you tell us to warm up and cool down for our best interest?
Yeah. Well, if you have contention, I do want to hear from people. So send us a message through the website or leave a comment. But hopefully you can take this episode, and if you listen to it more than once, it can be a useful reminder of these important factors. or you might even consider sharing it with someone so you can kind of forward this message on and say, hey, I've heard you talking about your neck pain or your posture's troubling you. These guys are talking about the importance of retraction. Maybe check it out. And then somebody else can be brought into the health and fitness side and do this and benefit with us as well.
We're going to change them one person at a time, man.
Yeah.
One at a time.
Good. Cool.
Cool. We left it under an hour.
35 minutes.
Take us out, man.
We'll do it. Here's our music again, and we'll do a little cool down and recap.
Because we already did a warm-up.
Yeah, it's the post of the episode. Oh, yeah, here, I'll give you some laughter. These are upside down for me, hard to read sometimes. But for those of you who have made it this far, thank you once again for listening, making it all the way to the end. As you've heard me say before, message us or comment with questions, comments, concerns, ideas, suggestions, or if you just want to say hi. We're always looking to continue building our community here. So share the episode. Go on there, subscribe, notify, listen to us start to finish. We've talked about it before,
I feel embarrassed just telling you guys what to do. You know what to do.
Yeah, if you like it, go ahead and share it. That's the way of it. But so far, we have hit a few milestones. We went over 1,000 total plays across YouTube, Stitcher, and Apple Podcasts. So things are happening. And I really hope that these episodes are going out and being genuinely useful for everybody. So to that end, if you can think of somebody to share it with, go ahead and please do that because it does help us out. Yeah. Otherwise, we're just in here by ourselves and, that's fun, but it's not the end all be all of these efforts.
Why I'm here.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Cool. All right. So today enjoyed our first episode of Unsolicited Advice. Thank you for listening to that. And if you enjoy this, let us know and we'll have some more topics for you coming up in the future.